Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for, what is it? It is Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. March Madness officially started last night. Congrats to Pitt, and that was a Texas A&M Corpus, I think something like that. I'm being sarcastic here. They both get in and had two more games tonight. NIT started last night as well. Was backstage for about a half hour talking with Pops about the difference between Juwan Howard and his tweet on how they gladly accept the invitation and take it with pride to try to build for next year and use it as a stepping stone. Let's get to the Mecca. Let's get to the Final Four. Let's get to NYC. It's a good recruiting tool, too. If you can get down to Madison Square for a two-game set there, unlike North Carolina, which maybe we'll talk about, maybe we won't. But today, blessed and honored to have a true friend and colleague, the true OG of gambling Twitter, the one and only Mr. Pop Dibiase.
What's up, world? What's going on? Well, off of the famous bets list, you guys already know I hope I kept everybody very well informed, very moneyed up, because we had a good little run. We produced 10 winners out of that group. The funny part was I wasn't able to give everybody a Big Ten winner, but I think that I was going to probably pick Purdue anyway. But really, what was going on? The Big Ten was by far terrible this season. In my opinion, it wasn't good. If you don't have a good Ohio State, if you don't have a good Michigan, it's a whatever conference. Let's keep it real. It truly is. North Penn State.
No, all year I've been just trying to figure out who's going to beat Purdue. Even when you're doing the brackets, I've said all along, I've been real high on Houston and UCLA. They both have injuries, and I have not been high on Purdue, and I haven't been. Not that I'm not high on Kansas. So let's get that straight. Defending champs, Bill Self goes in, gets a couple stents put in. I don't know if he'll be back for this weekend. If so, God bless him. If not, maybe the next weekend if they go 2-0. Very talented, very, very good group. So like I said, with my luck, UCLA and Houston will be out. And, there's Purdue and Kansas staring me in the face there. But I thought Indiana rounded into form nicely. They got a tough draw themselves. You talked about Michigan State, Penn State. I mean, hey, Penn State's had a good year. I applaud them, but Michigan State has not had a good year. And for the most part, there's no way in hell that I would have, if you gave me 10 brackets, not one of them would have Purdue cutting the net down.
Well, I almost got Purdue going out this weekend, man, to be honest with you, because I know somebody's going out this weekend that's a top team for sure. That's inevitable. That's gonna happen. Okay, that's gonna happen. All right. That a top seed, 1 or 2 will go 1, 2, or 3. Now, Jeff, I truly do think that we do have some very, very shaky 14. Not shaky 14. I mean shaky 3 seeds. Baylor's coming in here struggling mightily. Baylor had a nice run, got themselves back into the top 10, and then things kind of fell apart there the last few games of the season, and they bounced up out of the Big 12 early. And now you got Santa Barbara, who won a very, very strong West Coast Conference. Not West Coast Conference, but Big West this year. I know Big West is not a major conference, but Big West had a lot of teams that had an opportunity to win that title because they really went at it back and forth. And Santa Barbara actually struggled a little bit there at the end of the year, but they got everything together at the right time and got a nice little hard-fought victory against the team that I had picked to win the Big West, Fullerton, this year. So, them getting the 14 spot tells me that this could be another possible Middle Tennessee State, another possible Yale if Baylor doesn't come to the party early, because Santa Barbara is a good team, and we know that Big West has been really good for years, getting that upset at 13 or 14. We know Irvine did it a few years back, and pretty much now you got Santa Barbara, who's a team that always plays really well in that conference as well too. That team is always one of their top teams in the group, but they always figure out a way to not make the tournament. So this year they're in. So I know that's something that's kind of on my mind right now. And then the Charleston San Diego State game, Jeff, what are your thoughts on that one? Because I really like Charleston in that game. I got Charleston going all the way to the Sweet 16.
Well, you see me on court side when you beat Baylor. I was there with the Wichita States. I was in Providence for both of those games, and that's why I was smiling right there. That was the year Baylor was loaded, and they were gonna, just go right through, and they got upended in the first round there. I'm high on San Diego State, as I told you. Also, I'm high on St. Mary's. I think both those teams can do some damage. I know, you talk about the 5-12, and I think you're spot on. I think the media and the so-called experts has got it so hyped up. Everyone goes and fills every 12 to beat the 5, and 2 of the 4 will come through, and they're geniuses. I think, really, my honest truth, the 4-13s, those are where there's some real meat on the bones, as you're saying. But I like the San Diego State team. I know there's no Kawhi Leonard there, but again, they're defensively strong, senior orientated. I think they can play that tough defense and they can grind out wins, which you need, obviously, to keep moving in this tournament.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I feel like, a team that I'm going to catch you, and I know that this one is tricky, and it's going to be tough for them as well, too. But I truly do like this team a lot. Oral Roberts, 30 win team. They were absolutely incredible a few years ago in the tournament. We know that they were steps away from winning that game. They were a shot away from winning that game. I still don't understand why those 2 guys didn't make it to the NBA. Their guards, because those guys had probably nobody's going to ever talk about it enough, but those guys probably had 2 of the best duo you'll ever see in a tournament, scoring wise, the way that they went about that scoring in that tournament that year. So I truly do feel that Oral Roberts, I know Jeff smiled at me because he knows that they got a tough task. They got Duke, but Duke's a young team. Duke won a conference that was very easy to win. Let's just keep it real. There was no challenge for them to really win that conference this year because North Carolina got put out early. Virginia was never looked like a title team in the ACC this year, even though they were the best team in the ACC. Come on, Clemson was competing all year, and Clemson got left out. Because I really feel like, honestly, let's keep it real, Jeff. We know that the ACC was bad this year, but they did the ACC absolutely filthy. I've never seen them do the ACC this badly. You know what I mean? And we've had seasons where the ACC was just as bad, but the reason why they showed them love was because Duke and North Carolina were the top teams still. But if you don't have Duke and North Carolina as the top teams now, that whole little love of all these Big East schools that came years ago is over with, because Syracuse has ran into the wall. Pitt is no longer a dominant team anymore, even though they made the tournament and got past last night. We all know why they made it, because they had to reward them for beating North Carolina twice. If they don't beat North Carolina twice, they're still sitting there. They're playing. Well, maybe Pitt might get it because they do have a record that is conducive of them getting in, but most likely they would have been opening up as the 1 seed in their NIT game tonight. You know what I mean? Let's keep it real. And I feel like where we got a real conundrum here with a team like Oral Roberts is because Oral Roberts has the confidence. They have a 7'5" center too, Jeff. That's something that can be a very key piece to winning. I remember a few years ago, I don't know if it was, I think it was Bradley, or it might have been Cornell, one of them, but they had a really big man, and they were able to get all the way to Sweet 16. It was Cornell, actually. And they had a big man who was about 7'3", and he was able to literally walk them into the Sweet 16. And that's what I'm saying is that Oral Roberts has a player that can be a difference maker, and that's why I'm putting them in such high regard. You know what I mean? And I think that, when you look at it, they're in the East bracket. This game is going to be against Duke. Duke's young. They still trying to get it. John Shire, his first actual game as the head coach, the man, you know what I mean? And it's going to be a lot of pressure, because Duke's they're gonna talking about how he has a big shadow to fill and, all this good stuff. And, Duke just are slow starters as well, too. I think they lost their first conference game of the year this year, too. They lost their first game of the season against world competition. So I know Oral Roberts doesn't look like much because they did win an easy conference. Let's keep it real. Summit League was really easy to win this year. It wasn't really that much competition there. And the team they beat in the final wasn't good. You know what I mean? So let's keep it real. But all in all, when I look at who Oral Roberts has faced off against, they faced off against really good teams that they lost to. They lost to Houston when they were the number 3 team in the nation. They kicked off the season against St. Mary's and lost by 8. And then they played Utah State as well, too, another tournament team that I got kind of making some moves as well, too, Jeff. You don't sleep on Utah State. Do not sleep on Utah State at all. Utah State Utah State brings that old BYU element in here where these guys can shoot these threes and play really good defense and frustrate you. And after that, they lost to New Mexico. Then everybody else they beat. So they got 4 teams. 3 of them were in smaller conferences, West Coast schools, but they got Houston on the resume. Man, Houston beat them by 38. Okay, we'll keep it real. It was almost a 40-point drubbing. I know that's why Jeff keeps smiling at me because he's like, I know you got a lot of faith in Oral Roberts, but what did they play? What did they play? And then you look at the schedule and you say probably Liberty. After who did they beat? And it's like probably Liberty. You can't take Tulsa home. You can't say, oh, they beat Tulsa. Who didn't beat Tulsa this year? You know what I mean? So, because Tulsa was good. Tulsa actually had such a down season this year. I'm never used to Tulsa being that bad. Tulsa was absolutely atrocious this year. Same thing with SMU. SMU was bad too. But that's just telling of the time to the AAC, which is about to take another transition to looking more and more like the Conference USA as their best teams, as once again, their best teams leave the conference to go on to greener pastures, right? Cincinnati's going to the Big 12. We got Houston going to the Big 12 now. And then also Central Florida is going to the Big 12. I don't know why Central Florida thinks that they're bigger than the AAC, but okay. But those 2 years of going undefeated was very helpful for the school as well, too. So we got to factor that in. But, lo and behold, South Florida is going to get a little irritated, and they're going to try to chase them. You know that. South Florida tries to go everywhere that Central Florida goes, even though South Florida was a Big East team at one point.
We talked about, it was funny because when Saturday, when it didn't matter anyways, if UCLA would have beat Arizona, they were still going to give Purdue the 1. And so all along, I was like, okay, as long as they keep UCLA out west with the 2, I'm happy with it. And then, of course, they give Kansas the 1. I was hoping they put Purdue out west, to be honest with you, as the 1, move Kansas to the south. and then allow Purdue. But I mean, when you look at Kansas, UCLA, Gonzaga, UConn, and then Creighton and Baylor, right? Are they in there too? Or is that the other? Is that the other one, Pops? Creighton and Baylor? That's in Purdue's, right?
For the East? No, Creighton and Purdue would not be there. Creighton and Purdue is.
I'm looking for Creighton and Baylor. They're in which region?
Creighton and Baylor is going to be in Bama's region.
Okay. So my fact is, though, you got 4. I talked to you behind the stage. I talked to you yesterday. I'm going to just say it and get it in the out and open. Obviously, I'm rooting for UConn to win both games this weekend and at least get to the Sweet 16. Okay? I expect them to take care of business against Iona. I'm really not sweating this one, not like last year in New Mexico State. I am sweating St. Mary's. Now, maybe VCU beats them again. That's a classic 5-12. But I'm telling you, if it's St. Mary's versus UConn, I got a number of maybe UConn -4 and a hook. It might be less than that. And I'm just scared shitless there. But what do you think of that bracket out in the West? I mean, is it Kansas? We both like UCLA to come out of there. Any other dark horses that you got in that bracket?
I would call it welcome to death row. That's all I can say. Because when you look at this, you have 6 teams that can win this region right now. TCU, don't sleep on TCU. TCU roughed up everything, every elite thing going in the Big 12. They beat them by 10 or better. Yeah, Baylor, Texas, and Kansas. And they beat Kansas by 23 at Kansas. And I think, didn't they sweep Kansas this year? No. They didn't sweep. But they won all big games. And when you look at this, you say to yourself, Northwestern, Boise State, this is more pageantry. This is more, hey, we'll let you in for the ones, we've left you guys out of this tournament so many times. We'll let you in this time around. You did enough to be here. But when you look at every team here, even Arkansas could push the table, because Arkansas was the number 8 team in the nation to start the season off. Arkansas is just as vet laden as anybody. That's the craziest part about it. Nobody talks about that, but Arkansas still has those guys that played in the Elite 8 with them a few years ago. So that's something that you have to factor in, and they easily can make a nice little run here. Because Kansas, to me, is vulnerable. Kansas did not look good. They looked awful against Texas the final game of the season, and then they looked awful against Texas again. They just had an easy ride because they were playing against a desperate West Virginia team that knew that they were going to get in after they got the Texas Tech win, and the way that they got it. Because, you got to still blow teams out to get to impress the committee. And that's exactly what they did. And then when you look at who they had to play to get into the championship game, it was TCU, right? Yeah, they played TCU, and it just didn't. TCU just was tired by the time they got to Kansas. In a sense, I think no, it was Iowa State they beat. In Iowa State, they kind of knew that they had to take it to Iowa State right away in that game. They had to. They couldn't mess around with Iowa State and let Iowa State stick around, because Iowa State would have beat them. So I look at this and I say Kansas is really in a tough spot, because they know that they're the defending national champions. So that's why they're going to put the killer's row against them. And UCLA is a team that got street cred. Team went to the Sweet 16 last year, went to the Final Four the year before. They got guys that are All-Americans. So what the committee says is that we have to put them through the grinder, because we know that they can get through the grinder, those teams. And I say that this is not an upset-minded bracket day one. It's going to be one of the more formful brackets day one. The only matchup you have that's a matchup is Northwestern and Boise State. That's a 50-50. Everybody else will have to have a lot of luck to win. That's a lower seed. 11 through 14 is going to be tough on you. Even though you do have Arizona State, Nevada, I think TCU wipes out either one of them. It doesn't matter who they play. TCU's that good that they'll wipe out either one of those teams. And so Arkansas, Illinois is the other 50-50 game in a sense, but I think Arkansas has that one locked up. And that's who Kansas wants to avoid. Illinois is probably the better matchup for them going into the next round. But let's not sleep on Howard. Howard hasn't been here in 31 years, and I know that they're going to – I will say this. Howard covers. How about that, Jeff? Plus 21.5. Book me now for Howard to cover that game. Book me now. Plus so whatever bookie you heard me, book me now. $2.
We'll be back obviously next Tuesday or Wednesday, you and I. But to be fair to everyone, and I know like me, I have a handful of brackets that I've done. I mean, my gun to my head, I got Houston winning this thing. I'm going to stick with them. I think they're the best team in the country. I do have them beating UCLA. And then on the left side, I think I had off the top of my head, I did have Bama. And who am I missing, Pops? It wasn't Purdue.
You know, you said UConn, you got Houston, you said you got Alabama. You're not considering my Bruins, so it's all good.
No. I have Houston.
When we talked last week, you said Houston and UCLA after the conference tournaments. I think that you're more. I would say that you probably will start leaning more towards your Alabama. You got to throw Kansas in there. You got to throw Houston in there. You got to throw the Bruins in there. And I keep saying to everybody, you got to throw Texas in there. Texas has been overlooked all season long, and they're a team that never left the top 8 this year. And nobody has mentioned that one time. And then you know what? To throw in a team that might be able to make a move here, and I know it sounds absolutely insane at this point, but they do have the roster to do it. Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Kentucky, they put Kentucky in a cherry spot because everybody should have been licking their chops when they saw Purdue as the number 1 seed. It's been like that every time Purdue's been a number 1 seed ever. Only time you ever consider Purdue a threat was when they had Glenn Big Dog Robinson, and they lost in the Sweet 16 to Duke. We all remember that because that team went 30-2. That team was exceptional. They were the number 1 overall seed. They had Big Dog Glenn Robinson averaging 30 points a game on the power conference level, which is absurd. When you have guys averaging 30 on the power conference level and you're the number 1 team in the nation, it does build up a great situation. And you know that there was all those years of Indiana being so good that Purdue was there, their arch rival Purdue, little old Purdue. So all in all, I think that when you look at that bracket, you say to yourself that this bracket is the most wide open bracket. This one is the one where you expect upsets. Like I tell people right now, you could possibly get a 12-13 with Oral Roberts and Lafayette. Yeah, because Tennessee is seen as a upset victim. And let's look at the line. This 11.5 point spread right now, and people don't trust Tennessee. When you go into the game, Jeff, that's about a plus 400, plus a minimum. So, crazy guys like me, we want that. And I know what's going to happen here. They're going to bet it down 2 points to 9.5 because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, hey, Tennessee's not the greatest team in the tournament. They've been known to lose in the first round, to a team that is playing really good basketball. And Lafayette is playing great basketball, and they're another team that won a very tough tournament, a tournament that you did not know who the winner was going to be. James Madison, Marshall, and Southern Mississippi adding into the mix for the Sun Belt this season made the Sun Belt more of a legitimate conference. Let's keep it real. It's no more Georgia State, Georgia Southern, let me do what I want action anymore. This is a wide open conference, and they had a great, great tournament as well too. And so pretty much it produced Lafayette as the winner. And so when you had to play in a grinder tournament like they did, you can trust that. Then you got Kentucky. Providence is done. because Providence lost 2 home games in a row. It's over. It's just over for me if losing 2 home games in a row. You know what I mean? And then, you know, who else makes me really be like, okay, they could find their mojo. And I hate to say it, Michigan State. Izzo, turning time. Boy, you know what time it is, Jeff.
Don't be disrespecting USC here.
No, well, USC
US
was so under the radar and so whatever this season. Nobody has mentioned USC about anything this season.
Exactly. That's my point.
Well,
that's my point.
Hey, and I know where you're coming from because a lot of people will not say this yet, but you know who gave UCLA their worst loss of the season?
Who?
USC.
Thank you.
And the team that came back from an insurmountable lead on UCLA twice was USC. So, yeah, USC does have the chance. So, what my point is this 7-10 could be the one that F's up the party for this bracket because we could easily see either one of these teams run the table. Think about that. That's how wide open the bracket is. Because when you got Marquette as your number 2, Marquette's even in a bad spot. Vermont is no slouch because Vermont's used to winning their tournament. Think about that part. And Vermont has won in this spot before in the same type of scenario, beating Syracuse team that had one of the greater runs to win the Big East title. And then what happens? They go into the game and they lose to Vermont first game out. Or was it Vermont or was it Bucknell? Vermont beat Syracuse.
Bucknell?
But Vermont beat Syracuse too. Vermont beat somebody in the first round. And I think it was Syracuse. You know. But I'm telling you, this tournament is going to be exciting. But you look at the East and you just say to yourself, you know that Duke was so bad this season because that's usually Duke's bracket is the East. That's usually either Duke or North Carolina's bracket. And literally they had to figure out who they're going to put in the bracket, and it was them. And I feel like they just didn't want to put UCLA in that. UCLA easily could have been the number 1 in the East bracket, but they wanted UCLA to be in Sacramento. So, you know, it's kind of like they kind of had to be the 1 seed. I mean, the 2 seed in a sense. You know what I mean? Because that's how it was directed. And that's how it was set up. You know, and they're in California. So, really, they do have the home court advantage because they're playing in familiar territory. Everybody that's played in California knows that when you play in the state championship, you play at the Golden One Arena in Sacramento. Don't matter where you're from, Southern or Northern California. You're going to play in that arena. So UCLA is very, very familiar with that arena. But, you know, a lot of the newer college basketball fans do not understand how good they got it. You know, because me and Jeff know it used to be the days where UConn had to come west. And it wasn't no come west and you get to still play over in Boston. No. You're going to have to fly to Anaheim and play in Anaheim. And then you're going to have to fly to Phoenix and play in Phoenix. Ain't going to be no, we'll get there when we get to the Sweet 16. No. I think those days were a little bit funner, Jeff, because there was a lot of teams that you could follow the journey. You know what I mean? Like, well, they went here, and then they went there, and then they went here. Now it's just kind of simplified because they said, oh, yeah, we want to help, you know, teams not be able to afford to still keep going to the tournament, paying for the tournament like they ain't paying for it. But, all right. Yeah, I mean, tell you, NCAA love to cut corners, man, even though they make a king's ransom every single year when they do this tournament. And it just keeps getting bigger.
No, we could talk for hours here, and I held you up in the backstage waiting for puppy pickup. Give us a quick few minutes on the resurgence, and maybe it's the resurgence / the fall of the mighty West. You know, the KD report is banged up. Denver crashing and burning. All of a sudden, everyone's now talking about the Kings and the defense of the Lakers. What do you got out there, Pops?
Well, I would say this, man. It's just a log jam, Jeff. It happens. It just happens. It's a log jam between all these teams, and you have Denver, who's just like any racehorse that jumps out to the front. You know what I mean? And they're galloping, and everybody else is just putting it together, staying with the group. And now Denver's starting to lose games, but that's because Denver's starting to rest a little bit. We got 12 games left in the season, pretty much. You know what I mean? Most teams got 12 games left, 7 left for this month, 4 or 5 for next month. So the league only is 3 weeks left. Let's keep it real. The league is not, the league is almost over with for the season. So you have a real log jam. I'm looking at the standings now. You have Memphis, who just won 3 in a row, so they kind of were able to hold off the Kings a little bit for that 2 seed. And the Kings lost the other night. And then you have the whole Pacific Division after that, pretty much. You have Phoenix, who's the 4 seed. You got Golden State, who keeps Golden State and the Clippers both. Every time they lose, they go back into the play-in. Every time they win, they're back into the top 6. It's crazy, Jeff, because literally last week, Golden State and the Clippers were 8-9. They're 5-6 today. Dallas and Minnesota were the 5-6. Now they're 7-9. The Lakers went from 13 to 10 now. And that's just because the Lakers refused to just go 500 at one point this year. Because once they go 500, I think that's when the confidence boost comes on. But, you got Denver struggling, man. They've lost 4 in a row. And I just think that the West has just been beating up on itself so much this year. Because you can't just go into Sacramento and think that it's going to be a win this time anymore. You can't just go into Denver and think that, you're not going to have to play hard to win this game tonight. It's not. I think Denver is really a victim of circumstance because they step it up against the really good teams. But against the bad teams, they seem to just not show up. And that's been the problem. Come on, let's keep it real. They lost to Toronto. They gave 50 points in the first quarter the other night to Toronto. That's terrible. And then they come back around. They lost by 21 to the Bulls at home. And then they lost by 8 to the Spurs. Come on, Jeff. And then lose to Brooklyn by 2 at home. It's not that they're bad or anything. It's that, they're at the point in time where it's let's just get the 50 wins and be done. Because we're all going to be the 1 seed. We're already ahead by 4 games. We're good because Memphis isn't catching anything right now because they gave up on Ja. They didn't give up on Ja, but they made Ja get away from the team, and it actually has worked out in their favor. Ever since Ja left the team, they've actually been better. Because Ja left, they had lost to Denver, then they lost 2 in a row after he was removed from the team somewhat. And did he play? Did he? No, he did. Didn't he play in LA that weekend, or did they remove him the next day?
I thought going into last night they were undefeated since Ja has left.
I'm trying to think. Did he? I don't know if he played the Lakers the other night though.
They haven't lost with Ja gone. I heard earlier too that it was not just the regular season. They're probably going to keep him out for the playoffs. He needs to. Someone said he's basically in a rehab where they're just saying it's more, counseling, this, that, the other thing. So I don't have exactly where he is or whatever. But
Jeff, why don't we just keep it real? And me and you are both grown enough to know this. I'm almost 40 years old. Jeff, you in your 50s. You know this, man. At the end of the day, they don't want to embarrass the kid, but he got a drinking problem. It's that simple. He has a drinking problem. He's an alcoholic. It's that simple. He has all the ramifications of somebody who's enjoying himself and far too much. And I would say, it's going to sound messed up and people probably going to get mad at me saying I'm pointing fingers and things like that. But I was 24 years old as well, too, and out of control. So I know exactly what John Morant's going through. So let's not play this game that, it's just him partying at a strip club. This is just bad behavior in general. And the Memphis Grizzlies know that they've been dealing with this for the last 18 months. And now, but his basketball talent overrode that, and he wasn't in any public news like that. It was just maybe hearsay stuff and things that we'll say, hey, if we didn't see anything on Twitter, then we ain't worried about it. But now whoever he pissed off in his inner circle that was always watching him, they're telling all of his business now. They're putting out all of his business now. And, that's just the price of fame. And people have to understand that part at the end of the day, that you're an investment, and you have to understand that every move that you make, they can see. The NBA has the FBI working with them daily on a lot of different things. Everybody gets a background check. They know exactly if your father is a felon, or if your mother was adopted by wolves. They know all that shit. If they they know what they need to know at the end of the day. And people have to understand that part about the NBA. You're never going to trick them. You're never going to be able to hide anything from these people. It's just about what they accept and don't accept.
Getting closer, WBC going on. What's going on in the Love You Blue and Dodger area?
James Outman, Rookie of the Year. Bet it now. Future center fielder for the Dodgers. He's going to be absolutely incredible this season, because he's going to be able to bat behind Freddie Freeman, who's hurt. Freddie pulled a hamstring other day with Team Canada. But Julio Urias has been absolutely dynamite for Mexico. But they're going to sit him today because Mexico's manager was given very strict orders by the Dodgers organization that there's only going to be so many pitches that Julio is going to be able to, because he's still on spring training pitch count. He's not on Mexico go win a World Baseball Classic pitch count. He's on Dodger pitch count because it's a contract year for him with the Dodgers as well too. So the agent and the Dodgers organization have let them know that you cannot overuse Julio Urias, because he's the Dodgers ace, and the Dodgers are working on possibly giving him $100 million deal or better. You know what I mean? So you got to keep your prizes in place. And Mookie Betts is probably going to play more right field, but he'll be tuning from right field and second base this season as well too, from what I'm hearing. And also the Dodgers are working it out with a lot of their young arms right now over in Glendale, and they are making some big strides. Ryan Pepio is on course to become a very significant pitcher for the Dodgers this year as well. Dustin May is back on course as well. They kind of resting. It was kind of like a let's just get you back in, get you back comfortable last year. Yeah, there were some moments where he looked like a Cy Young winner, and there were some moments where he looked like he needed to go back to AA. So that's just baseball for you. But he's actually rounded out pretty good because he was coming fresh back from a surgery. So there's a lot of things working out in the Dodgers' favor right now, and the Dodgers are just trying to put it together. I know that there's been a lot of questions after what happened to Gavin Lux, but they should be fine. Rojas was already gonna probably be the everyday shortstop as is, and he's gonna be a nice piece because he's a guy that can move around the bases pretty good. And I think that if Chris Taylor can get back to the form that he was a few years back, the Dodgers should be really good. But I don't expect the Dodgers to be lights out in April. I don't expect them to be that good in April. I feel like they'll probably have an even record in April, and then things will start taking. Then we'll actually know who the Dodgers are come about the second week of May. You know what I mean? I don't ever say let's. I don't ever get excited about a first month of baseball. I just don't. Because I've seen teams start off with terrible records and win the World Series. Then I've seen teams start off with gangbusters and come nowhere near making the playoffs. So the first month of the season is nothing to ever get excited about. Look at the Angels, for instance. The Angels were the number one team for 2 weeks in the West, and everybody was like, what if they have a all California, all New York championship series, and they were talking about this in early May. And then guess what happens? The Angels wind up losing 20 out of their next 25 and fired Joe Madden. You know what I mean? So it is baseball is long. It's a marathon, not a race, not a sprint. I mean,
As we wrap it up, there's a handful of NIT games tonight. Anything on the docket that you got your eyes on that you might want to give out as a nugget or two before you go live on your shows today?
I would say this. I think that tonight you have some really good games, but don't overestimate these games either. I got an upset special for you tonight, and it's in the state of Florida. I think Central Florida goes into the Thunderdome, the Terror Dome, whatever they call where the Gators play at, and I think they go ahead and get a win over the 16-16 Gators tonight, just like Eastern Washington beat Washington State last night as a plus 10.5 doggy dog. I was like, that was a money line play. I had them last night with the points, but I was like, if you didn't think Eastern Washington was going to win that game, you know, if you didn't think they had a chance, then you don't know. You ain't been watching no college basketball. That team was the number 1 seed in the Big Sky. They just got put out. That's all it is. And you know, they got put out by Northern Arizona, who went on a nice little run there. And also, I can't give out my NCAA plays because them is for my clients tonight. Yeah, I'm being a little selfish this year, y'all. I'm sorry. Clients, people that are paid in, they get the March Madness love right away. You know what I mean? You guys might get one. You know what I mean? I might not waste time giving you guys 6 pieces and things like that because people ain't appreciating shit no more, Jeff. You know, they're out of 62-1, and you know it's like, damn, where's my parade at? And then some guy goes on FanDuel, throws out a 12-1 with $5 on top of it, and all of a sudden he's the greatest handicapper to ever walk the earth. So you know, it's just funny to me because like I've been doing that 8 years now. You know what I mean? I've handed you guys 100 to ones, and you know we're still sitting here worried about what Hurd is talking about. But it's all good. But another big upset tonight I can see happening is Youngstown State over Oklahoma State. Youngstown State is pissed off. That team had real tournament aspirations. They looked like a tournament team all throughout the season. They just wound up running into the defending tournament champion from the year before, Northern Kentucky, and being upended. It's just that simple. So, you know, at the end of the day, those are my two that I like on the upset. And then a team that I like to kind of just run away with this thing tonight, because I know that they're really pissed off as well, too. Clemson. Book them. Book Clemson tonight. 20-point win for Clemson tonight, Jeff. I like it.
Where can they find all your work, Pops?
They can find all my work. You go to Sesame Street, you walk around, you make a left, and you look for the garbage can that Oscar the Grouch lives in, and you can find me right there chilling over in Grouchland. No, you guys can catch me on the Twitter at Pop Dibiase, and you guys can also catch me on Instagram DBIC Wave _. You guys can also DM me or email me as well. You DM me on the Twitter, or you can DM me on the Instagram, or you guys can email me at primewavemedia@yahoo.com, and I'll get back to you guys as quick as possible. I have my March Madness package going as well, too. That will get you all the March Madness and the NBA playoffs as well, too. If you do want to get the if you want to get the actual flat fee on the 2023 package that includes baseball, that's still available as well too, but I do have a discounted rate with March Madness for you guys, so you guys can catch that you guys can catch me on Twitter if you have any interest in that. Okay, so all I gotta say is that you guys just keep punching, keep going at it, and just know that bet with your head and not with your heart. Okay, so use your brain for college basketball. I know you were alumni at some little school that's playing, like, say, probably you were alumni somewhere like Colgate or something like that. Just know they don't have a chance, all right? Even though you know that you love the school, you still go ahead and put $20 on the money line just in case. Just in case. You know what I mean? And you know what? I just hope that we have a great tournament. And Jeff, I'll tell you this. If we have any 16 seed that wins, it will be the team that's going to win tonight in tonight's game. Because it's just, we don't like Purdue. It's just, we don't like Purdue. It's just that simple, you know, but fuck Purdue. You know, so, you know, at the end of the day,
I'm just going to say this. We're just going to keep going against Purdue every game, and they're going to make it to the Final Four. It's just how it is.
Right.
And then the same thing as Kansas. They're in the bracket of death, and they're just going to keep finding ways. You know, they'll just keep plucking along. So you can mark Kansas and Purdue in your Final Four, and then, you know, it's the Alabamas of the world, and it's the other teams over there that were supposed to get there that won't get there.
And
so
Alabama
anyway,
and Houston are so popular, they're going home this weekend. Watch. That how it works. They're going to go home this weekend. Houston,
I know.
You know, and everybody knows Houston is on suicide watch. Come Saturday, come Sunday. You know that. Everybody named Mama is going to be on Auburn because Auburn's going to win that game. Brucey Pearl been here before, Jeff. You know that. All right.
Is it Brucey? Is it Brucey or Bootsy Pearl? Are you calling him Bootsy?
Bootsy or Brucey?
The one and only Pop Dibiase. Go follow him at Pop Dibiase at Prime Wave Media, the primetime capper himself, the true OG on the Twitter. Go follow me at EC Sports Invest at 3 o'clock. Brady Cannon is on with the Valspar. He'll give us the breakdown for this weekend in the PGA. And at some point, 4:30, 5 o'clock, Riley. And I'm not sure if I will be there for the closing bell. We can't thank you guys enough. Always a pleasure. Retweet us. It's like tipping the dealer at the Bellagio. And we'll see you soon. Toodles.
We always talk Bellagio. We need to be talking about the little people.